Hi everyone, welcome back to Stoic Mindset. Today, we're exploring a drastic shift in thinking that goes against everything we've been taught about success and accomplishment. Signs that someone doesn't like you and is hiding it. Imagine walking into a room full of people, friends, colleagues, or even acquaintances. Conversations flow, laughter fills the air, and everything seems normal. But then, you catch a glance or feel a shift in someone's body language, and suddenly, something feels off. It's subtle, barely noticeable, but you sense it. Discomfort in the air, tension that wasn't there before. You start to wonder, does this person secretly dislike me? You brush it off, convincing yourself it's just your imagination. But that nagging feeling sticks, and suddenly you're hyper-aware of their every move, analyzing every word, every glance. It's a situation many of us have experienced. Feeling like someone doesn't like us, but having no concrete proof. In these moments, it's easy to get lost in self-doubt, replaying conversations in our heads, second-guessing our actions, and wondering what we did wrong. The truth is, humans are complex creatures, and our relationships are often influenced by subtle, unconscious behaviors that reveal more than we might want to admit. In many cases, when someone secretly dislikes you, their body language, tone of voice, or even small actions can betray their true feeling, even if they never say a word. This feeling of uncertainty, of wondering whether someone harbors negative feelings toward you, can be unsettling. It's a situation where psychology plays a key role. Human interactions are layered with emotions, perceptions, and nonverbal cues that reveal our true feelings, even when we try to hide them. Whether it's a colleague at work, friend in your social circle, or even someone in your family, the signs that someone dislikes you are often subtle. They're there if you know what to look for. So, what if you could decode these signals? What if psychology could provide you with the tools to understand the unspoken emotions of the people around you? Truth is, science has shown that our behaviors, body language, and even the way we communicate can often give us away, whether we mean to or not. In fact, there are clear psychological signs that someone secretly dislikes you. And once you know what to look for, the truth becomes easier to spot. As we dive into this exploration of the 7 signs someone secretly dislikes you, you'll learn how to identify subtle behavioral cues that might otherwise go unnoticed. These aren't just random guesses or anecdotal observations. These are insights backed by psychological research, designed to help you understand the complexities of human interaction. And while these signs may not always provide definitive proof that someone dislikes you, they can certainly point you in the right direction, helping you navigate social dynamics with more awareness and confidence. But let's pause for a moment. Why does it matter if someone dislikes you? After all, we can't expect everyone to like us, right? While this is true, understanding when someone harbors negative feelings toward you is important for several reasons. First, it can help you avoid unnecessary conflict. If you're aware of someone's negative feelings, you can adjust your behavior, give them space, or even address the issue directly to resolve any tension. Second, being aware of these signs can protect your emotional well-being. When we're unaware of negative feelings, we might continue to invest in relationships that are ultimately unhealthy or toxic. By recognizing these signs early, you can protect yourself from emotional harm and focus your energy on relationships that are mutually supportive and positive. Understanding these signs can also be a powerful tool in professional settings. In the workplace, knowing if a colleague or boss secretly dislikes you can help you navigate office politics more effectively. You can adjust your approach to communication, avoid potential pitfalls, and maintain a professional demeanor, even in difficult situations. Whether you're navigating a social or professional setting, being able to identify when someone dislikes you can give you a significant advantage. So what are these signs? What are the subtle cues that reveal when someone secretly dislikes you? It's not always about obvious actions like rude comments or overt hostility. Often the signs are much more subtle. Could be in the way they avoid eye contact when you're speaking, or how they respond with short, dismissive answers when everyone else is engaged in conversation. Maybe it's the way their body tenses up when you enter the room, or how they seem to be overly polite in a way that feels forced and unnatural. As we go through each of these 7 signs, you'll start to recognize patterns in behavior that are often overlooked. You'll learn how psychology can help you read between the lines, giving you insight into the true feelings of those around you. Whether it's through their body language, tone of voice, or small behavioral shifts, these signs are rooted in psychological principles that reveal more than words ever could. The goal here isn't to make you paranoid or overly sensitive to every interaction. Instead, it's to empower you with knowledge that can help you better understand the people around you and navigate your relationships with greater clarity. By learning to recognize these signs, you'll be better equipped to protect your emotional well-being, avoid unnecessary conflict, and foster healthier, more authentic connections with the people in your life. So, if you've ever felt that nagging doubt, that subtle but persistent feeling that someone may secretly dislike you, this is your chance to explore the psychological science behind it. Understanding these 7 signs will not only give you peace of mind, but also help you build more meaningful, positive relationships moving forward. Let's dive in and uncover the hidden signals that reveal when someone's true feelings may be more negative than they appear. And if you're still here with us, don't forget to hit the channel subscription button, like or share, comment number 1 in the comment section so we know you're still moving on and we're grateful to you. Let's get started. 1. Avoiding eye contact. Eye contact is foundational to building trust and bonding. When somebody dodges eye contact with you or makes only very occasional eye contact, it's generally a sign that they are uncomfortable with you on a subtle level. Eye contact plays a powerful role in human communication, conveys emotions, builds trust, and enhances connections between individuals. But what does it mean when someone avoids eye contact? From a psychological perspective, avoiding eye contact can reveal a great deal about a person's emotional state, intentions, and even personality traits. While it may seem like a simple behavior, the act of looking away during a conversation often holds deeper psychological meaning. One of the most common reasons for avoiding eye contact is social anxiety. People who experience social anxiety often feel intense self-consciousness in social situations, leading them to avoid direct eye contact as a way to minimize discomfort. For them, maintaining eye contact may feel too intimate or exposing, as though their inner thoughts and emotions are on display for the other person to see. Avoiding eye contact in these instances serves as a defense mechanism to reduce the feelings of vulnerability and stress that come with social interactions. In addition to anxiety, feelings of guilt or shame can also cause someone to avoid eye contact. When a person is uncomfortable with something they've done or said, they may subconsciously avert their gaze to avoid facing the person they feel they've wronged. Psychologically, eye contact during such moments feels confrontational and forces the person to acknowledge their guilt. This avoidance can be a way of escaping the discomfort of being judged or held accountable for their actions. Interestingly, cultural differences also play a significant role in how people interpret and use eye contact. In many Western cultures, maintaining eye contact is often seen as a sign of confidence, honesty, and attentiveness. However, in some Eastern and African cultures, direct eye contact can be viewed as disrespectful, especially when interacting with authority figures or elders. In these cultural contexts, avoiding eye contact is not a sign of weakness or deceit, but rather a demonstration of respect or humility. Understanding these cultural nuances is essential for interpreting eye contact in a globalized world. Psychologically, avoidance of eye contact can also indicate deception. When people lie or feel uncomfortable with the truth, they may avoid looking directly at the person they are speaking to, as it becomes difficult to maintain a calm and confident demeanor. Studies have shown that liars may feel exposed when making direct eye contact, fearing that the listener will be able to see through the lie. However, it's important to note that not everyone who avoids eye contact is lying, as the behavior can stem from many other emotional and psychological factors. Another key factor is autism spectrum disorder, ASD, where individuals may avoid eye contact, not out of anxiety or dishonesty, but due to the difficulty in processing and responding to social cues. For individuals with ASD, maintaining eye contact can be overwhelming. as they may struggle to interpret the complex emotional signals that come with it. Instead, they may focus on other aspects of communication, such as verbal language or gestures, to navigate social interactions more comfortably. Ultimately, avoiding eye contact can be influenced by a wide range of psychological factors, from anxiety and guilt, to cultural norms and neurological conditions. While the behavior may be interpreted as a sign of discomfort, dishonesty, or social awkwardness, it's important to consider the broader context of the situation. Understanding the psychological reasons behind this behavior can lead to more compassionate and informed interaction, allowing us to engage more effectively with those around us. Whether in personal relationships or professional settings, being mindful of eye contact and its absence can reveal a deeper understanding of human emotions and communication. 2. Excessive politeness. Excessive politeness is a red flag when it comes to somebody secretly disliking you. The politeness essentially serves as a suit of armor for this person. By doing everything correctly, they can block any real and genuine interaction with you, keeping their mask on socially. Politeness is often viewed as a cornerstone of social interaction, helping to foster respect, kindness, and smooth communication. However, when politeness becomes excessive, it can shift from being a positive social tool to a potential psychological indicator of deeper issues. From a psychological standpoint, excessive politeness can signal underlying feelings of anxiety, fear of conflict, or even low self-esteem. It's a behavior that may seem harmless on the surface, but often points to an internal struggle for control, acceptance, or safety in social interactions. At the heart of excessive politeness is often social anxiety. Individuals who are overly polite may be driven by a fear of judgment or rejection. By being excessively courteous, they hope to avoid criticism or conflict, believing that by constantly pleasing others, they will be more accepted or liked. However, this hyper-polite behavior often comes at a personal cost. The overly polite individual may sacrifice their own needs and boundaries to maintain a facade of constant agreeableness, which can lead to feelings of frustration, burnout, or resentment. This form of politeness isn't so much about respect for others, but rather a coping mechanism to handle internal discomfort and fear of social disapproval. Another psychological factor linked to excessive politeness is people-pleasing tendencies. Those who excessively accommodate others often have a deep-seated desire to be liked and valued. This can stem from early experiences where they may have learned that approval was contingent on being agreeable or easy to deal with. This need for external validation can push individuals to go beyond regular politeness, leading them to constantly put others' needs above their own. Over time, this can erode their sense of self and create a cycle where they rely on others' approval for self-worth. Excessive politeness can also mask a fear of conflict or confrontation. For some, the idea of conflict is so distressing that they go to great lengths to avoid it, even if it means suppressing their true thoughts or feelings. In this case, politeness becomes a shield, protecting them from the discomfort of disagreement or tension. Instead of asserting their opinions, they default to excessive agreeableness, often nodding along or agreeing with things they may not fully support. While this strategy can prevent conflict in the short term, it can create long-term issues such as passive aggression or bottled-up frustrations. In some cases, low self-esteem also plays a significant role in excessive politeness. Individuals with low self-worth may not feel entitled to express their true thoughts, needs, or opinions. They might believe that being overly polite is their only way of earning respect or affection from others. This excessive politeness is rooted in a belief that their value comes solely from how well they can serve or accommodate others, rather than from their inherent worth as a person. Excessive politeness, while socially acceptable and even praised in many cultures, can lead to significant personal struggles. It can prevent individuals from forming authentic connections, as their overly polite behavior may come across as insincere or even frustrating to others. Additionally, constantly suppressing one's true feelings and needs can lead to emotional exhaustion and, over time, damage mental health. In conclusion, while politeness is generally a valuable social skill, Excessive politeness often indicates deeper psychological concerns such as anxiety, fear of conflict, or low self-esteem. It's important to recognize that healthy boundaries, honest communication, and self-worth are crucial for maintaining genuine and fulfilling relationships. Excessive politeness, when unchecked, can become a barrier to authenticity and personal well-being. 3. Not asking you question. Body language often says what the mouth doesn't. When somebody strongly dislikes you, but doesn't want to show it, take a look at their body language. In social interactions, asking questions plays a fundamental role in building relationships, showing interest, and fostering meaningful connections. When someone doesn't ask you questions, especially during conversations, it can raise questions about the underlying reasons. From a psychological perspective, not asking questions can reveal much about the dynamics of the relationship, the individual's emotional state, and their perception of the interaction. While this behavior can seem like a simple conversational choice, it often points to deeper psychological factors. One of the most common reasons people avoid asking questions is disinterest. In conversations where someone doesn't inquire about you or your thoughts, it might indicate that they aren't fully engaged. Psychologically, humans tend to show interest in others when they are genuinely curious or invested in the relationship. When someone doesn't ask questions, it can suggest a lack of emotional investment or that they see the interaction as a formality rather than an opportunity for deeper engagement. This doesn't always reflect a dislike, but it may indicate that the person feels indifferent toward furthering the connection. Another potential factor is self-absorption or narcissism. Some individuals are more focused on themselves during conversations and prefer to talk about their own experiences, opinions, and achievements. Psychologically, this could stem from a sense of self-importance or the need for validation. For someone with narcissistic tendencies, conversation becomes a platform to affirm their identity rather than an exchange of ideas or mutual interest. In these cases, the absence of questions is less about you and more about their internal need to dominate the conversation or maintain control over the narrative. In some situations, social anxiety or introversion can explain why a person avoids asking questions. People with social anxiety may fear that asking questions could lead to an uncomfortable or awkward situation. They might be unsure of how to phrase a question, worried that it might come across as intrusive or be received poorly. Similarly, introverts may not naturally gravitate toward active questioning during conversation, preferring to listen or reflect quietly instead. In these cases, the lack of questions is not indicative of disinterest, but rather of discomfort or uncertainty in social dynamics. Another explanation for not asking questions can be unconscious bias or judgment. People may refrain from asking questions when they've already formed preconceived notions about you. In these instances, they might assume they already know the answers or believe they've made judgments based on superficial impressions. From a psychological standpoint, this lack of inquiry reflects a closed mindset, where the individual sees no need to learn more, as their opinions or biases have already shaped their perception. Lastly, emotional disengagement can be a significant factor. When someone is going through personal challenges, such as stress, depression, or burnout, their emotional capacity for deep conversations may be limited. They may not have the mental energy or emotional bandwidth to engage fully in the conversation, which can result in them being less curious or invested in asking questions. This can be a sign that they are distracted by internal struggles and not fully present in the moment. In conclusion, when someone doesn't ask you questions during a conversation, it can stem from a variety of psychological reasons. Whether it's disinterest, self-absorption, social anxiety, or emotional disengagement, this behavior often reflects deeper dynamics, play. Understanding these underlying factors can help you navigate these interactions with greater empathy and awareness. Recognizing that the absence of questions isn't always a reflection of your worth, but often a sign of what the other person may be experiencing internally. 4. Closed and avoidant body language and actions. Body language often says what the mouth doesn't. When somebody strongly dislikes you but doesn't want to show it, take a look at their body language. Body language is a powerful tool in human communication. often revealing feelings and intentions that words alone cannot express. When someone exhibits closed and avoidant body language, it can be a sign of discomfort, disinterest, or even deeper emotional issues. From a psychological standpoint, these nonverbal cues can speak volumes about a person's emotional state and their relationship with the environment or the people around them. Closed body language typically includes actions such as crossing arms, hunching shoulders, or turning the body away from others. These physical behaviors often signal a desire to create a barrier, either emotionally or physically, between the individual and the person or situation they are encountering. Psychologically, crossed arms are often seen as a defensive posture, suggesting that the person may feel threatened, uncomfortable, or unwilling to engage. It's a natural, unconscious way to protect oneself, especially in situations where the individual feels vulnerable or insecure. Another key aspect of closed body language is limited eye contact or deliberately looking away. Eye contact plays a crucial role in building connection and trust during communication. When someone avoids looking directly at you, it can indicate feelings of anxiety, dishonesty, or even social discomfort. In many cases, people with social anxiety tend to avoid eye contact because it can feel too intense or exposing, almost like they're being scrutinized. Avoiding eye contact is a way of protecting oneself from perceived judgment or unwanted attention. Avoidant actions, such as turning the body away, leaning back, or physically distancing oneself from a conversation, also point to emotional detachment. Psychologically, when someone creates physical distance, it is often a sign that they are disengaged or uninterested. This could happen in social situations where they feel overwhelmed, uncomfortable, or bored. Alternatively, avoidant body language can be a sign of conflict avoidance. When a person is in a difficult conversation or facing criticism, they may unconsciously back away or turn their body to avoid confrontation or emotional discomfort. Closed and avoidant body language can also be linked to defensiveness or protectiveness. For instance, when someone is being questioned or feels accused, they may close off their posture to shield themselves from what they perceive as an attack. This defensive mechanism is often subconscious, but it reflects the person's desire to avoid vulnerability. Psychologically, they are trying to guard themselves against further discomfort, which can manifest in rigid, closed-off movements. It's important to note that emotional baggage or past experiences can also shape how people use closed and avoidant body language. For individuals who have been through trauma or have struggled with trust issues, this kind of nonverbal behavior can be a protective measure. They might instinctively close off as a way to keep others at arm's length, preventing themselves from getting hurt again. In conclusion, closed and avoidant body language provides key insights into a person's emotional and psychological state. These nonverbal cues often indicate discomfort, defensiveness, or desire to distance oneself from a situation or individual. While it can sometimes be misinterpreted as rudeness or indifference, it's often a reflection of deeper emotional struggles, such as anxiety, insecurity, past trauma. By understanding these behaviors, we can better navigate social interactions, respond with empathy, and foster more meaningful connections with others. 5. Usually being too busy to talk or hang out. When somebody strongly dislikes you but doesn't want to show it, they will often be absent when you call or text. In today's fast-paced world, being busy has almost become a badge of honor. But when someone is consistently too busy to talk or hang out, it can signal deeper psychological dynamics at play. While it's natural for people to have periods of time where life demands more of them, work deadlines, family responsibilities, personal goals, when someone frequently uses busyness as a reason for not engaging with others, it may indicate more than just a packed schedule. From a psychological perspective, this behavior can be a reflection of emotional avoidance, boundary setting, or even deeper social anxiety. One of the main psychological reasons someone might claim they're too busy could be emotional avoidance. People who struggle with intimacy, vulnerability, or unresolved personal issues may use busyness as a shield to protect themselves from uncomfortable emotions or social situations. By keeping themselves occupied with tasks, work, or responsibilities, they avoid the possibility of dealing with awkward conversations, conflicts, or emotional demand. This is a common coping mechanism where being too busy allows them to sidestep feelings of insecurity, inadequacy, or even fear of rejection in social settings. In some cases, social anxiety can also drive someone to perpetually appear too busy. For individuals who experience discomfort in social interactions, turning down invitations or avoiding conversations by citing a busy schedule is a way to avoid the anxiety that social situations can trigger. From a psychological standpoint, these individuals might feel overwhelmed at the thought of social gathering, where they fear judgment, awkwardness, or pressure to engage in conversations. Instead of facing this anxiety head-on, they prefer to stay within the comfort zone of their routine tasks and obligations. Another reason someone might consistently be too busy is boundary setting. While busyness is often used as a way to avoid difficult emotions, it can also be a subtle method of maintaining personal boundaries. People who have difficulty saying no or feel uncomfortable declining social invitations directly might use the excuse of being busy to protect their time or energy. This can be especially true for individuals who are highly introverted or who prioritize alone time, personal recharge. In these cases, saying they're busy is a way to maintain personal space without the guilt or social pressure that can come from directly turning people down. On a deeper level, perfectionism and workaholism can also play a significant role in someone constantly being too busy for social activities. Psychologically, some individuals tie their sense of worth and self-esteem, productivity. They may believe that staying busy and constantly achieving is the only way to prove their value, either to themselves or others. This relentless drive for accomplishment leaves little room for social connection, as they prioritize work or personal tasks over relationships. While they may not intend to push people away, the need to feel productive can take precedence over spending time with friends and loved ones. It's also important to recognize that overcommitting can stem from a fear of missing out, FOMO, or the inability to manage time effectively. People might overbook themselves with various commitments, leaving little time for social interactions. In such cases, they aren't consciously avoiding others, but rather struggling with prioritization and balancing their obligation. In conclusion, consistently being too busy to talk or hang out can stem from a variety of psychological factors, ranging from emotional avoidance and social anxiety, boundary setting, or perfectionism. While it's easy to interpret this behavior as disinterest or rejection, it's often a reflection of deeper internal struggle. Understanding the psychological reasons behind someone's perpetual busyness can lead to more compassionate and supportive interactions, helping to bridge the gap between work, personal responsibilities, and meaningful social connection. 6. Low-key put-downs and negs. When a person has an aversion to you but doesn't want to show it, it will often show through in the subtext of what they say. Low-key put-downs and negs are subtle forms of negative communication that can have a significant impact on relationships, self-esteem, and mental health. From a psychological perspective, these behaviors are often used to assert control, undermine confidence, or mask insecurities. Although they may seem harmless at first glance, these underhanded comments or backhanded compliments can be a powerful form of emotional manipulation. A low-key put-down is a subtle insult or critique that can be easily dismissed as a joke or casual remark. The psychological intent behind these comments is often to destabilize the other person's confidence while maintaining a veil of ambiguity. The person delivering the put-down might laugh it off or claim, "I was just kidding," leaving the recipient unsure of whether they should feel offended or not. This strategy is commonly used by individuals who want to assert dominance or control in a relationship without appearing overtly hostile. For instance, a friend might say, "Wow, you're actually smart for once." Although it sounds playful, the underlying message is condescending and meant to subtly diminish the recipient's intelligence. The recipient might brush it off in the moment, but repeated exposure to such comments can erode their self-esteem over time. Psychologically, these put-downs chip away at a person's confidence, leading them to second-guess themselves and feel insecure in social interactions. Similarly, negs, short for negatives, are often used in the context of romantic relationships or flirtation. though they can appear in friendships or professional environments as well. A neg is a type of backhanded compliment, where the speaker appears to praise the other person while simultaneously belittling them. For example, "You're pretty for someone who doesn't try that hard" is a classic neg, which gives a compliment but immediately devalues it by suggesting the person's attractiveness is accidental or unearned. Negging is often used as a psychological tactic to create insecurity in the recipient. By lowering their confidence, the person who delivers the neg gains a sense of control, as the recipient may subconsciously seek approval to counteract the insult. This creates an unhealthy power dynamic, where one person subtly undermines the other in order to feel superior or more secure in the relationship. At its core, the use of low-key put-downs and negs often reflects deeper insecurity in the person delivering them. Psychologically, individuals who use these tactics may feel inadequate or threatened by others' success, intelligence, confidence. Instead of addressing their own feelings of inadequacy, they attempt to bring others down to their level by using these subtle, damaging comments. This behavior can be a way for them to regain a sense of control or superiority in social situations, but it ultimately creates toxic dynamics. In the long term, low-key put-downs and negs can lead to significant emotional harm. Repeated exposure to such remarks can undermine a person's self-worth, increase anxiety, and contribute to feelings of inadequacy. The subtle nature of these comments makes them especially insidious, as the recipient may feel conflicted about whether they should feel hurt or simply get over it. In conclusion, low-key put-downs and negs may seem harmless, but their psychological impact can be profound. Whether used consciously or unconsciously, these subtle jabs are often rooted in insecurity and can create toxic, imbalanced relationships. Recognizing and addressing these behaviors is key to fostering healthier, more supportive interactions that build confidence rather than tearing it down. 7. Dodging physical contact and affection. On a related note to having closed body language around you, the person who secretly hates you will dodge physical affection and touch between the two of you. Dodging physical contact and affection is a behavior that can be deeply rooted in psychological factors, often signaling discomfort, anxiety, or past trauma. While physical touch is a natural form of human connection and communication, avoiding it can reflect complex emotional states and personal boundaries. From a psychological perspective, consistently avoiding physical affection can reveal underlying issues such as attachment difficulties, fear of vulnerability, or even past negative experiences. One common reason people may avoid physical contact is due to social anxiety or discomfort with intimacy. For individuals who experience social anxiety, physical touch, whether it's a hug, handshake, or simple pat on the back, can feel overwhelming and intrusive. The idea of being physically close to someone may trigger feelings of nervousness or fear of being judged. This avoidance is often not about disliking the person offering affection, but rather about managing their own emotional discomfort in social situations. The anxiety surrounding physical contact can stem from a fear of appearing awkward or making a wrong move, leading them to dodge affection as a form of self-protection. 8. Springing passive-aggressive traps. The person who secretly despises you will often engage in passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior is a form of indirect communication, where an individual expresses negative feelings or resentment in a covert way. From a psychological perspective, passive-aggressive actions stem from an inability to express anger or frustration directly. These behaviors can manifest in subtle, underhanded ways, leaving the recipient feeling confused or unsure of how to respond. One of the common tactics used in passive-aggressive communication is the setting of traps, situations designed to frustrate or undermine the other person without outright confrontation. Psychologically, passive-aggressive individuals often struggle with conflict avoidance. They may fear the consequences of directly expressing their frustrations or anger, whether it's because of a fear of rejection, punishment, or creating tension in relationship. Instead of addressing their concerns openly, they use indirect methods to communicate their dissatisfaction. For example, they might say things like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll do it myself," with a tone that clearly implies they're upset but without giving the other person a clear opportunity to address the issue. This tactic places the recipient in a no-win situation. If they don't act, they're perceived as uncaring, but if they try to engage, passive-aggressive person may deny any issue. Another psychological factor at play is resentment. Passive-aggressive individuals may feel powerless or unable to assert themselves in their relationships, leading them to harbor resentment over time. Rather than confront the source of their frustrations, they channel their resentment into passive-aggressive traps. For example, someone might intentionally do something to irritate a partner, such as forgetting an important task they promised to handle. When confronted, they may feign ignorance or offer an insincere apology, making the situation even more frustrating. The goal isn't to resolve the issue, but to subtly punish the other person for perceived wrongs. Fear of vulnerability also contributes to passive-aggressive behavior. Direct communication requires openness and vulnerability, which can be uncomfortable for people who fear being judged or rejected. By setting passive-aggressive traps, individuals can express their dissatisfaction without fully exposing their feelings. This allows them to maintain emotional distance and avoid the discomfort of vulnerability, even though it perpetuates unhealthy communication patterns. In many cases, passive-aggressive traps are used as a way to control the situation. By leaving the other person guessing or second-guessing their actions, the passive-aggressive individual maintains a sense of control without having to engage in direct conflict. This is often a learned behavior, developed over time in environments where direct expression of anger or frustration was discouraged or punished. These individuals may have grown up in families where open conflict was seen as taboo, leading them to rely on more covert ways of expressing negative emotions. Low self-esteem can also play a role in passive-aggressive behavior. Individuals who lack confidence in their ability to assert themselves may resort to passive-aggressive tactics because they feel inadequate in direct communication. This behavior serves as a defense mechanism, protecting them from the fear of rejection or confrontation, while still allowing them to express their dissatisfaction. In conclusion, passive-aggressive traps are a manifestation of deeper psychological struggles, including fear of conflict, resentment, fear of vulnerability, and low self-esteem. While these behaviors may provide short-term emotional relief for the passive-aggressive individual, they often create long-term damage to relationships by fostering confusion, frustration, and a lack of trust. Understanding the psychology behind passive-aggressive behavior can help both parties navigate these interactions more effectively, leading to healthier communication and stronger relationships. 9. Rarely opening up at all. When somebody dislikes you, they want to do one of two things. 1. Clash with you and undermine or insult you. 2. Avoid you and get away from you. When someone rarely opens up emotionally, it can be a sign of deeper psychological dynamics at play. From a psychological perspective, the reluctance to share personal thoughts and feelings often stems from a combination of past experiences, personality traits, and coping mechanisms. While being reserved isn't inherently negative, consistent emotional withholding can lead to misunderstandings in relationships, feelings of isolation, and even personal dissatisfaction. One of the most common psychological reasons for avoiding emotional vulnerability is a fear of rejection or judgment. People who rarely open up often harbor concerns that sharing their innermost thoughts will lead to criticism or rejection. This fear might have roots in past experiences where they were met with harsh responses or indifference when they did express themselves. Over time, these individuals may learn that staying silent or keeping their emotions to themselves feels safer than risking judgment. This protective mechanism creates emotional distance, but it also prevents them from forming deeper, more meaningful connections with others. Another factor contributing to emotional reserve is an avoidant attachment style. People with avoidant attachment typically have difficulty relying on others or trusting that emotional vulnerability will be met with support. This attachment style often develops during childhood when an individual's emotional needs were not consistently met by caregivers. As a result, they learn to self-soothe and avoid seeking emotional intimacy, fearing that opening up may lead to disappointment. In adulthood, this pattern can manifest as an unwillingness to share emotion. leading to challenges in forming close relationships. Personality traits such as introversion or a natural inclination toward privacy also play a significant role. Introverted individuals may feel that they don't need to express their emotions as outwardly as others do. They often prefer to process their thoughts and feelings internally, viewing self-reflection as more fulfilling than verbalizing emotions. While this can be a healthy approach to managing emotions, it can sometimes make others perceive them as distant or uninterested in forming close relationships. However, this reserve doesn't necessarily indicate emotional unavailability. It may simply reflect a different way of engaging with their inner world. Emotional regulation difficulties can also explain why some people rarely open up. Individuals who struggle with identifying or managing their emotions may not feel equipped to express them in a healthy way. For some, emotions can be overwhelming or confusing, making it easier to avoid them altogether. This tendency can be linked to emotional neglect in childhood, where emotional expression wasn't modeled or supported. Without the tools to process their feelings, these individuals may choose silence over sharing, leading to emotional stagnation or disconnection. In some cases, trauma can cause people to shut down emotionally. Trauma survivors often develop coping mechanisms that include emotional withdrawal, as discussing or acknowledging emotions can be triggering. Opening up may remind them of their vulnerabilities or lead to feelings of helplessness. In these instances, remaining emotionally closed off is a survival tactic, allowing them to maintain control and avoid reliving painful memories. In conclusion, rarely opening up emotionally is often a complex interplay of fear, past experiences, personality traits, and coping mechanisms. While emotional reserve can protect individuals from immediate discomfort or vulnerability, it can also limit their ability to form deep connections and experience emotional fulfillment. Understanding these underlying psychological factors can lead to more compassionate interactions, helping both the individual and their loved ones navigate the delicate balance between emotional privacy and meaningful expression. 10. Not inviting you to things. When somebody secretly dislikes you, they routinely exclude you from gatherings, events, or invitations of any kind. Not being invited to events or gatherings can feel hurtful and confusing, especially when you're unsure why it happened. From a psychological perspective, being excluded often triggers feelings of rejection, insecurity, and loneliness. However, the reasons behind not being invited can be complex and varied, often rooted in social dynamics, individual psychology, and unconscious biases. One of the key psychological factors behind exclusion is group dynamics and social hierarchy. Groups naturally form hierarchies based on status, closeness, or perceived value, which can affect who gets invited to certain events. People tend to invite those they feel the most comfortable with, those they consider close friends, or individuals who are central to their social circle. If someone isn't seen as part of the core group, they may be unintentionally left out, even if there is no negative intent. This exclusion can lead to feelings of being overlooked or unimportant, even though it may simply be a reflection of how the group functions. Another reason for not being invited might be social anxiety or fear of confrontation on the part of the person organizing the event. If the inviter has had previous disagreements or awkward encounters with someone, they might avoid inviting them out of a desire to prevent discomfort. They might worry about how the person will react or whether their presence will create tension. From a psychological standpoint, this exclusion is a way of managing their own anxiety or avoiding potential conflict, even if it causes hurt feelings for the person being left out. In-group favoritism can also explain why some people aren't invited to certain events. Psychologically, humans have a tendency to favor those who are similar to themselves in terms of interests, personality, or background. This unconscious bias can lead to exclusions based on subtle differences, where people unconsciously gravitate toward those they feel share their worldview or lifestyle. This doesn't necessarily mean the excluded person is disliked, but rather that they may not fully fit into the particular social environment at that moment. Another psychological factor could be assumptions made by the inviter. They may assume that the person they didn't invite wouldn't be interested, too busy, or wouldn't enjoy the event. These assumptions can be based on previous interactions or misunderstandings. For instance, someone has declined invitations in the past. The inviter might assume they're not interested and stop extending invitations, even though the circumstances might have changed. This miscommunication can lead to a cycle of exclusion, where the person not invited feels increasingly alienated and the inviter continues to assume disinterest. Low self-esteem or fear of rejection on the part of the person being excluded can also amplify feelings of hurt when they aren't invited. People with low self-esteem may internalize the exclusion, seeing it as confirmation that they are unlikable or unwanted, even when the exclusion was unintentional. This can lead to a negative feedback loop, where the person begins withdrawing from social interactions, further reinforcing feelings of isolation and rejection. In conclusion, not being invited to events can stem from a variety of psychological and social factors, including group dynamics, social anxiety, in-group favoritism, and assumptions. While it often feels personal, exclusion isn't always rooted in negative feelings or deliberate rejection. Understanding the underlying psychological factors can help individuals navigate the emotional impact of not being invited and foster better communication in social relationships. By addressing these issues directly and openly, both parties can work toward more inclusive and fulfilling social interaction. In navigating relationships, whether personal or professional, it's important to recognize the subtle signs that someone may secretly dislike you. While not everyone will openly express their feelings, understanding these cues can help protect your emotional well-being and guide you in how to interact with others more effectively. From avoiding eye contact and offering only polite but surface-level conversations to subtle passive-aggressive behavior, the signs are often there if we know what to look for. However, it's important to remember that just because someone may exhibit these behaviors, it doesn't always mean they actively dislike you. People may be dealing with their own challenges, anxieties, or insecurities, and their behavior may be more reflective of their internal struggles than any negative feelings towards you. Recognizing these signs isn't about jumping to conclusions, but rather fostering more mindful communication and emotional awareness. Ultimately, relationships are complex, and not every interaction will lead to closeness or mutual admiration. However, by paying attention to subtle signals, we can better navigate difficult dynamics and approach situations with empathy and emotional intelligence. This allows you to focus on nurturing healthier, more genuine connections and to step back from those that may not serve your well-being. Trust your instincts, communicate openly, and remember that while not everyone will be a lifelong friend, each relationship offers an opportunity to grow and learn. I want to thank you for sticking with us through these transformative tips. Remember, each of these steps is about empowering yourself and creating a life where you're truly valued. But before you go, I have one small request. If you found value in today, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, and let's spread our powerful motto in the comments below. Just type IR as above to remind yourself and inspire others that you're committed to rising above any negativity and embracing your worth. Your support helps us reach more people who can benefit. These insights. Thanks for joining us today, and keep shining bright, my friends.